The sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my corner office, glinting off the polished glass desk where I sat, fingers drumming lightly on my tablet. My silk blouse clung slightly to my arms in the warmth, a minor annoyance I barely noticed. I had bigger things on my mind. A buzz on my phone broke the rhythm, and I glanced at the screen. A message from my brother, Adam. "Dad's coming to town. Wants to see you. Urgent." I froze, the words sitting in my chest like a heavy stone. Urgent. Dad. The combination tasted bitter. Memories I'd carefully boxed away started clawing at the edges of my mind. I leaned back in my chair, letting the leather cradle me, pretending I wasn't trembling slightly. I had built this life meticulously, piece by piece, far from the house where I'd first heard those words that had cut me to the bone. "You're not our blood." A faint laugh escaped me, ironic, bitter. Me, Samantha Blake, CEO of my own startup, being summoned by the man who once questioned my very existence. I stared out at the skyline, the city humming beneath me, and for a moment, I allowed myself to feel the full weight of that old hurt. Then, almost on instinct, I straightened my blouse, smoothed my hair, and reminded myself, this time, I controlled the narrative. I remember the day like it was yesterday, though I was barely 16, my hands still small and unsteady. The living room was packed with family, my mother, my father, aunts, uncles, cousins, all leaning in as if the entire world needed to witness my humiliation. Dad's face was red, veins standing out on his forehead, and in his shaking hand, he waved the DNA test like a banner of accusation. "You're not our blood, Samantha," he shouted, his voice echoing off the walls. The words hit me like a physical blow, each syllable embedding itself deep in my chest. My mother opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Shock, maybe guilt, or perhaps relief that the attention wasn't on her. I felt my throat tighten, tears pricking at the corners of my eyes. I tried to speak, tried to defend myself, but my voice cracked. I looked around, searching for an ally, and saw no one. Even my brother, who should have stood by me, lowered his gaze. My world had collapsed in an instant. Then, from the corner of the room, Grandma Ruth stepped forward. She was always the one who could see the truth in people, beyond appearances and lies. She pressed a small, worn locket into my palm, a gift from my childhood. "Remember, Sam," she whispered, her voice gentle but firm, "blood isn't only what runs through your veins. Strength, heart, and courage. Those are the real ties that matter." Her words were a lifeline. Clutching the locket, I felt a spark of defiance ignite. Maybe I wasn't their blood, but I could still be my own person. That day, I made a decision. I would leave behind the judgment, the shouting, the humiliation. I would build something that no one could take from me, something I could call mine, something that would prove my worth on my own terms. I walked out of that living room holding back tears, but my head held high. I didn't know exactly where I was going or how I would get there. But I knew one thing: I would never let someone else's disbelief define me again. Leaving home was terrifying. I rented a tiny studio apartment downtown, the kind where the pipes groaned and the walls were thin, letting the city's noise crawl in at all hours. I had a backpack, a few clothes, and Grandma Ruth's locket tucked against my heart. But I also had determination. I had to start somewhere, and that somewhere was me. I found a small marketing firm that was willing to give me a chance, even though I was young, inexperienced, and raw with potential. The first few weeks were brutal. I stayed late, often until the janitor shook his head and offered me a tired smile as he mopped the floors. I made mistakes, big ones, but each one taught me something new. I soaked up knowledge like a sponge, and slowly, clients began to notice my persistence and creativity. It was there I met Isabella Grant, a seasoned strategist in her 40s with an uncanny ability to see talent. She saw something in me that even I hadn't recognized yet. "You're impatient with yourself," she said one late evening, leaning against my cubicle wall. "But don't let the world make you doubt your fire. Keep going, Samantha. You have more to give than you think." Her mentorship was invaluable. She challenged me, guided me, and occasionally scolded me when I let self-doubt creep in. I learned how to pitch, negotiate, and understand the subtle dynamics of power in the corporate world. Slowly, the wins started to accumulate. My first big client was a boutique fashion label. Securing that contract felt like climbing a mountain. My heart raced, palms sweating, but the sense of accomplishment was intoxicating. Soon, the contracts grew bigger, and my confidence with them did too. I began to invest in small side ventures, always cautious, always learning. By 25, I had not only financial independence, but a fledgling network of professionals who respected me, not because of my name, but because of my skill. Through all of this, I never flaunted my success. Social media showed nothing of the long nights or the battles fought in cubicles and conference rooms. I posted modest updates, avoiding any hint of triumph. My family, if they checked, would see nothing. And that was exactly how I wanted it. My success was mine, untouchable, untarnished by the past, hidden until the moment it mattered most. Every now and then, I would touch the locket Grandma Ruth had given me. It reminded me that this journey wasn't about revenge or proving them wrong. It was about becoming the woman I was meant to be, independent, confident, and unafraid to claim her place in the world. The day my family arrived at my penthouse, I felt a strange mixture of anticipation and amusement. They expected the same timid, dependent girl they had dismissed years ago, the one who had crumpled under their words and left home broken. Instead, they stepped into a space that radiated quiet power and taste. The elevator doors opened to reveal a sprawling living area flooded with sunlight, walls adorned with curated abstract art, and shelves lined with books that spoke of knowledge and ambition. A sleek glass desk bore my nameplate, Samantha Blake, founder and CEO. Every detail, from the polished hardwood floors to the soft cashmere throw draped over my chair, whispered success and control. I let them take it all in. Dad's jaw tightened, eyes scanning the room like he was searching for a trap. Mom looked stunned, her hands twisting nervously in front of her. Even Adam froze mid-step, unable to reconcile the woman before him with the little sister he thought he knew. I poured 3 glasses of water, letting the sound of ice clinking against glass break the silence. I smiled, the corners of my lips calm but my eyes sharp, holding every memory of that day they told me I wasn't their blood. "Sit," I said, my voice smooth and unyielding. They obeyed. "I imagine you expected something different." Dad's face flushed. We didn't know. "You didn't believe," I corrected gently, leaning against the desk, fingers brushing the locket around my neck. "You didn't believe in me. You assumed that being called your daughter meant I was defined by your approval, by your idea of blood." I paused, letting the words settle like stones in the room. "But here's the truth," I continued. "I built this life on my own. I worked nights you'll never know existed, pitched clients who had every reason to say no, and I never let your disbelief dictate my worth." I tapped a tablet on the desk, and a screen lit up behind me with charts, contracts, and photos of my businesses, brands, properties, and ventures I had quietly acquired over the years. "This," I said, gesturing around, "is what I've created. Not because of you, not because of anyone else, but because I refuse to let words like, 'you're not our blood,' define me." Mom's hands flew to her mouth. Adam's eyes glistened with a mix of awe and shame. And Dad's smirk faltered, replaced by something I'd never seen on his face, uncertainty. For the first time, he had no script, no authority to wield over me. I let the silence stretch, letting them absorb the reality. Samantha Blake was untouchable, self-made, and entirely independent. The DNA test didn't matter. The judgment didn't matter. What mattered was the woman I had become, strong, unapologetic, and entirely in control of her story. Finally, I leaned back, a faint smile playing on my lips. I am, and always have been, my own blood. Strong, relentless, and unbreakable. For the first time, I felt the weight of control settle fully on my shoulders. The same family that had tried to diminish me now waited, silent, hoping for a path back into my life. I could choose to close the door forever or offer a chance on my terms. I rose from my chair and walked slowly toward Dad, letting my heels click against the hardwood floor. "If you want a relationship with me," I said, my voice steady, "it won't be because of fear, guilt, or old habits. It will be because you've proven that you can respect me and change yourself." Dad opened his mouth, probably to argue, but I raised a hand. "No excuses. Here's the deal." I laid out my conditions carefully, each one tied to growth and accountability. Respect boundaries, no more shouting, belittling, or bringing past grievances as weapons. I would not allow old wounds to be reopened for anyone's comfort or ego. Active support. If you want to be part of my life, prove it through actions. Show effort, genuine interest, and encouragement, not judgment. Pursue your passions, Mom, Dad, Adam. Find something meaningful that inspires you. Stop living in blame or relying on me to fill gaps in your life. Growth and happiness must come from within. Transparency and honesty. No half-truths, no hidden resentments. I will no longer tolerate lies as a way to manipulate or control me. I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. My family was stunned, each processing their place in this new reality. Their expressions were a mix of guilt, awe, and something tentative. Hope, perhaps, if they chose wisely. Adam swallowed, finally speaking. "Sam, I understand. I want to try. I don't want to lose you again." I nodded, letting a flicker of warmth soften my tone. "Good. Then we start there. And remember, it's not about proving anything to me anymore. It's about becoming people you're proud to be, not relying on me to give you validation." Mom's eyes glistened. I think I can do that. I want to do that." I turned back to Dad. His smirk had disappeared, replaced by something I hadn't seen in years. Humility. "You have a lot to learn," I said gently. "But if you're willing, I'll give you a chance. On my terms, not yours." For the first time, the power in the room shifted completely. I was no longer the child seeking approval. I was the architect of my life, defining the rules, choosing who could stay, and insisting on growth, honesty, and respect. It felt intoxicating and liberating. Weeks passed, and I watched, quietly, as my family began to shift. Adam started pursuing his photography, spending long hours in the studio instead of scrolling through old grudges. Mom took up volunteering at a local community center, her smiles genuine rather than performative. Even Dad, stubborn as ever, enrolled in a leadership course, small steps but steps nonetheless. I observed them not out of suspicion, but out of cautious hope. Change was slow, uneven but real. And each small victory, each effort to grow, filled me with a quiet satisfaction. This was the fruit of boundaries, of clear expectations, and of refusing to let old pain dictate my life. One evening, alone in my apartment, I held Grandma Ruth's locket again. The metal was warm against my palm, its engraving faded from years of touch, yet the message inside remained vivid. Strength, heart, courage. I traced it with my fingers, realizing that every achievement, every battle fought in silence, had been a tribute to that simple wisdom. I reflected on the journey, how I had left home with nothing but hope, how every rejection, every harsh word had carved space for resilience, and how, in rising above their disbelief, I had discovered my own power. I had become a woman who defined herself, rather than allowing others to define her. And in that reflection, I felt a profound peace. Not because my family was perfect, or because the past had vanished, but because I had chosen my path with intention, and I had refused to let bitterness harden me. I had forged strength without losing empathy, independence without losing my heart. I smiled, tucking the locket back around my neck. My voice, calm and certain, could almost narrate the story to the world. I am not defined by the blood they deny me. I am defined by the courage I embrace, the choices I make, and the woman I have become. Strong, unshakable, and entirely my own. The city lights twinkled outside my window, and I knew that no matter what came next, I had already claimed the life and the respect I deserved.